I am DM Zone. This is Gamers Oasis. Let's get into it. Okay, guys, so as you can see here, I'm going to start with a little bit of a teaser. We're going to talk about these three weapons in more detail later on. I'm going to compare this to what I do here, also to what I'm planning to do with Easter Mayhem. So now we're out of that. You can see I'm hunting more dire weeds. This weapon I'm using is the Breer P2a. It's a limited weapon. They start with like 30 PED available on the weapon if you were to go full TT. They are a player-made weapon, so that is a benefit. They don't sell for a lot of markup, usually like 105%, I believe is what it was. I got this one at a little bit, well, it wasn't the discount. It was just what it cost to make by one of the viewers, and I would like to thank them. Their name is Sad Cats, in case you are wanting to use this weapon, and I'll go ahead and link their name actually down below too. So I want to thank them first of all for providing this opportunity to use a weapon I probably would never have or would not use anytime, like now, or in the near future, because I didn't even know this weapon existed until they provided it. So you can see that it does, or you saw maybe that it does 5.5 to 11 points of damage. Dire weeds have 50 hit points. That means that an average of like 9, 8 damage, 8.5, should be within 6 to 7 shots to kill a dire weed, which means this weapon falls in that Goldie Locks zone of how many shots to kill a mob, which means that the loot should probably be better. Now, that means that weapon does the right amount of damage. There's a lot of other variables. It is 0.1% less efficient than a book and spare rifle. A book and spare rifle does not do that kind of damage. The adjusted one does 3.5 to 7, so making its damage closer to like 5.5. There is a distinct difference between these two weapons, and they are not comparable on that mob in that way. However, there might be other weapons that are in that range, or maybe do a little bit more damage. An extra point or two, maybe going up to 13, would be really handy in this situation for this particular mob. But 0.1% on the efficiency is not anything to quibble over. The AR Matrix 10 might be good, but it's probably a little bit more weapon than you need. Doing often in the 20s for damage, you'd be 3-shot killing those things quite often. So you're trying to find something just in between probably to get that, which is why doing this hunt was so appealing to me in the first place. But anyways, let me get a little bit more into some other stuff, and then we'll get back into this weapon some more at the end. Okay? So I felt like the drops were maybe a little bit more consistent on this hunt. I've hunted the sprouted dire weeds for about 250 PED worth of ammo, so that has given me quite a few kills. This time I felt like I got a little more even spread. I did not get any flaxweed though, which I was really kind of sad about, because there's a recipe I've been trying to do for a video. Requires flaxweed, but I will get that eventually. I also didn't get any globals, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. It just means I didn't get any globals. I did only do 50 PED. That was more because the weapon wasn't going to be able to last long enough to do more than that. This weapon had a faster rate of decay than I was expecting, shall we say. I did, however, get, though, a summoning totem and more crystal pollen. And I'm going to just put those cards up real quick so you can see them. But I'm going to go more in depth on those two, probably in their own specific video, because these items are extremely high markup and are worth going into in more detail. So if you get those, save them until you know a little bit more about them, and then decide then if you want to sell them, shall we say. So I've also done a lot more item walking. I'm calling it item walking because I'm not looking just for fruit. I'm not looking for stone. I'm not even looking for fruit and stone or even common dung. There are other things in these worlds, I should say, that you can find. And I'm going to be doing an advanced item walking video or something of that nature, title-wise, where I go more into this. That's going to be what I found on the different planets, and it's going to be during, sort of before a lot of my testing has gone, and I'll do maybe a follow-up video with after I found a bunch of these things. This is what I've found, type of thing. Mostly what I'm looking for in this moment, though, is skewed towards Berkite. As you know, I'm doing that season of crafting coming up next year, and it's going to be a major driving focus. I'm looking for 45,000 Berkite total before I start my season of crafting, which is very daunting. I have continued to find more. I've sold thousands, and I mean literally thousands of fruit along the way, which is used to buy things like extractors and whatnot, because there's no way in the world I'm going to be able to farm 45,000 extractors in any sort of a reasonable time frame. So I am going to buy a bunch, and I've started buying those already. I'll probably come up with like what my average purchase for my extractors. But generally, if it's 135% to 125%, I'm pretty stoked about the price. So, okay, so let's go back into these weapons just a little bit more, breaking up maybe the details on this just a little bit. So the adjusted Buchan starts at 57.3% efficiency. When I apply 2 of the Bullseye 8s and a Long Reach 4, I now have a second Bullseye 8, which was a remarkable upgrade that I did at the end of my Enigma Keys thing. And you'll see videos, you'll see the Corona's hunting task, which has to do with the Enigma Keys and everything. You'll see that video later when that comes out with a group of other videos I'm doing. But just know that it happened. I now have that green jumpsuit that gives you movement speed. And part of that, I was able to then buy one of these, an extra Bullseye 8, because it was a really good price. Anyways, so with 2 of those on a Buchan, it goes from 57.3 to 61.1. That is a difference of 2.8% in efficiency, which is pretty significant in that range because it's kind of like a bell curve. You get not very much at the very low efficiency, you get a high in the middle, and then you don't get as much in the end because there isn't that much left to really get. You can also see that it raised my skill mod to 63, and my attached skill bonus is 4.3, which I believe means that I can use like an AR Matrix 20, and it would raise my skill from 22.1 to 26.4, and my damage and my hit skill, that's for damage, and my hit skill would be from 24.1 to 28.4. So that would make it that I shouldn't have any negatives on that, and I'm going to go test that as soon as I can get me an LR Matrix 20. Look for that, maybe if I can afford it, in the next vlog. And we'll see if I can somehow work that out, or maybe next year I'll get that, and we'll do that too so you can see it, even if it's just to hold it and then to put the things on and then test it. But we'll see what I can do. Speaking of LR Matrix, the 15, the one I did this test on, started out with a 62.8 efficiency. So it starts out more than the Buchan ever gets to, which is fine. I mean, it is a very expensive limited weapon that has a decent markup. I want to say I paid like 125% for this weapon for markup and everything. And it goes to 63.4. And for those that are doing math along with this, that is only a 0.6 difference. Now, it raised my skill attachment bonus to 4.3, but I'm already fine. I don't need that. But the big benefit is the skill modifier, the percentage. 63% for having all three of these items on there is like walking around with a slight buff. That's pretty nice. Now the Breer P2a limited goes from 57.2% to 59.7%. That is a 2.5% difference for those of you who are doing the math along the way. Now, I still get all the other benefits, not that I needed. I still get the skill modifier, which I appreciate. This is a very low skill weapon that does pretty good damage. Great for a new player. Doesn't do as much efficiency as a Book and Spare rifle, adjusted now. I don't know why it was off by 1% and it was lower, but then it gained less than the Buchan, which is higher. Normally, the higher the percent, the less you get, as it is shown with the AR matrix. But for whatever reason, the Breer does not do that, and I don't understand why that is. Maybe that weapon is built differently or follows different rules. Maybe planetary things come into factor. I don't know exactly how that works. That is definitely deep in the archives of MindArc somewhere, probably not public knowledge. So in this fight, literally like 17 ped, a little less than 17 ped was lost in decay on this weapon, and that is an incredible amount. I had both attachments on there, and those lost a total of 7.58, which is more than I was expecting. So I don't know if that is attached to the weapon decay, which means that if you have a weapon that decays more, you even have more attachment decay. This was only 50 ped, so I was a little surprised by all that decay. I'd be willing to bet that the Buchan in a 150 ped run, which is 3 times as long, would have less than this weapon does, which only does, 4 points more damage, would have less decay than this Breer did. So I don't know how that falls into that. You might also notice I also have the Facada on there now. I stopped using the Maze Hammer just briefly. I'm going to start raising up on my Facada stuff, and eventually that will be a thing I do. You can see that I did wear my CDF scout armor and did not use my healing at all. I treated the mobs a little differently in this fight. I ended up just running to the water and drowning any of the level 8s that I ran into instead of trying to fight them, because I didn't feel like this weapon would kill a level 8 fast enough to really be able to even do it. So the better part of Valor, I guess, is to tactically retreat. But yeah, I only lost 86 pec worth of repairs on my scout armor. Shrapnel, this hurt. I was down 20.77 ped. That really put me down. I will say this about dire weeds. They were consistent with the amount of animal muscle oil and the animal oil residue you found. They were consistent with those 3 type of extractors: the basic, the diluted, and the strong cloth. The basic stone extractor and the diluted and strong cloth extractors. Normally, I found more components, so I don't know if that was a factor of this. Probably will never fully know. Just maybe they go through waves of giving out that more. Then we had more high-speed controller components, which I was super excited about getting that much. When you get 18 in a 50 ped thing, you start to look at, okay, maybe I could actually make some of this for whatever it's used for. And I guess that should be a future video. What is a high-speed controller component? What does it do? How is it used? What is it a component of? I should really say. That would be the more defining question. All right, so looking at some of my cards for my skills, you can see here, didn't really get a lot of skills. Really kind of sad. I don't think based upon the skills, it was worth doing this hunt in the end. Unfortunately, I did get a lot or some decent loot as far as that goes, but man, I'm hoping there's a different choice. I only gained 2.5% of my ammo looter. Now, if I did 150 ped, that would be 6.75, which is not nothing, but I believe that on a different weapon I use that does similar damage, that weapon gained me a lot more. I'll probably do that video in the future, even though it's a prior hunt, just because I wanted to get this one out and done, and I wasn't going to try and go for the 150, so it wasn't fully comparable to some of the other stuff I'm doing right now. So Dodger went up by 8.02% of a level. If you times this to 150 ped, you're looking at something around 24 and some change percent. That is a decent amount. I would love to get a lot more than that, but that for sure shows us where the focus of the game was. Ranged laser. Now this is one that, I spent 50 ped. It should go up significantly, and unfortunately it really didn't. As you can see, it only gained 6.82% of a level. So even if I did 150 ped, that would only be like 20%, 21% of a level, which is, not bad, I guess, at this level, but certainly not where I would like it. Looking at the one that should have gone up the most, because I don't use ranged laser pistols as much, or pistols really as much as some other things. But I did get a little more skill in here. Again, wasn't crazy. This is a 16.52%. Again, if it was 150 ped, that would all be tripled. So you're looking at something closer to the little math on the fly here. I'd be right at like 48, 49% of a level. Again, that's not terrible, but I believe that the weapon I used before was more in the 70% for 150 ped. So, the only thing I can really say about the Breer that was nice is this Breer 2 was the right damage range, and it seemed to provide a consistent good loot that maybe wasn't all over the place. So maybe it was the perfect weapon for that. You're just not going to get a lot of the extra stuff skill wise, and you're going to suffer some loss and decay. Now, remarkably, I come pretty close to breaking even when you take into consideration the markup on some of these items. I'm certainly not as negative as it's showing me. The summoning tomes are worth about 5 ped each. I got one of those, so that's super cool. That Paladin crystal is worth peck to ped for each one, and I found several of those. So yeah, there's a significant amount in there, but it's not quite enough to break me even. I'm going to try this again with a different weapon on the same mobs and see if I get a different result. I'm trying to find a weapon that does that top damage around 13 to 15 damage, because that's going to be the next evolution from a bootkin. I would like to find one that is unlimited, where I know that is completely out of my price range. So I'm looking at lower markup items that maybe could do this. Let me know if you have any suggestions of weapons I should use down below. I'm very interested in that. Look for next year. It's going to be very interesting. I don't know 100% how things are going to work out yet, but I'm putting my head to the grindstone, shall we say, to try and think of better ways to make a mousetrap. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to watch more content like this, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you follow along for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and keep her in that bed.